Okay, good evening. The time is 7:16. It's Monday, June 15th. We're in the New Rochelle City Council chambers for a public meeting. The Westchester Rink Guidelines Board. Chair, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. This is our presentation today. Is a presentation of the tenants and the owner representatives regarding the leases of apartment commencing or being renewed between October 1st, 2026 and September 30th, 2027. I will now take roll call. Please respond to the question. Edwin Santiago. Present. Natalie. Present. Present. Ed Finger.
Yes.
Sylvia Hank. Present. Gregory Robert.
Present.
Tamara Stewart. Present. Robert Withers.
Present.
And I have the pleasure tonight of introducing our new member of the public member, Mr. Nicholas Becci. Please introduce yourself to the board and the audience.
Good evening, everybody. I have to say really thank you to everyone. The confidence in this. I'm 44 years old in 3 days. I'm an immigrant from Albania. I'm a proud American, and I love this country. And this is the only way I can pay that. I'm a father of 5. I have 3 daughters and 2 boys, ranging from 19 to 16-month-old. I live in Yonkers. Excuse me. I moved here in 1998. When I bought my house in 2011, I don't know if I have enough time. Chairman. It was
We want to know you where you are.
$350,000 in Yonkers. Right now, 2 doors down, same house sold for double that. Because I have a daughter in college and she's a second year in nursing, I have no idea how she's going to be able to buy a house. Okay, right? I own a construction company. I was just telling myself here, I do very well for myself. I just don't know how they're going to pay me. So I know that the landlord will look at me like they were strangling themselves. I have their back too, because that kind of work that I'm doing. I just want everybody to know, whether it's the tenants or whether it's the landlords, I'm going to do that. I don't know if everybody understood my English, because English is my 3rd language, but I'm glad to be here. So.
Thank you. Let the record show that we approve. And now let's proceed with the first. Oh, I'm going to ask Mr. Stecker if he has any announcement.
Hi, Chair. Thank you. Just a couple of things. First, the last meeting of this board is a week from today, and it is in the White Plains City Council chamber, and that'll be for the rebuttal and vote meeting. So that'll start at 7 o'clock. There is no time limit on that room. However, hopefully we can get started promptly. And secondly, regarding Mr. Becci being on the board, he is appointed as of today. It was effective today. I do want to know for the record that Mr. Becci has been at several of your meetings already this year, and I believe that he's also watched some of the meetings as well on YouTube. So he's, I understand, well caught up on the proceedings of this board to date, and he will be able to participate in the vote next week.
Great. So with that said, I'm going to introduce the speakers. Last year, the tenants were first. And this year we are going to reverse the order. Mr. Finger is going to do the presentation for the owners, and he will have 20 minutes to do the presentation. Mr. Stecker, please take the time.
Sure.
Good evening, members of the board. Madam Chairperson, members of the board. While I thought I would be an observer this year, the Board of Legislators in its wisdom has kept me on this board. It's interesting that while some members of the board signed on to a 2% rent increase, they could not find the time to appoint a public member for over a year. Thank God we now have one. And we now have a full board. And they have not gone ahead and passed on a new landlord member. And I hope by next year, it will be done. I think 25 years is enough. I submit that it's the job of the board, of course, this board, to act as to the rent increase, and not the legislative board, which is stick to its own obligations. With regard to our function, first, may I again point out one section of the legislative finding that no one has referred to during this hearing, that the quote, ultimate objective of state policy, end quote, is the quote, transition from regulation to a normal market of free bargaining between landlord and tenant, end quote. That's what's in the legislation itself. Now, I understand that the statute provides that this also has to take place with regard to the stated housing emergency. However, I pointed out so that we can keep things in perspective and context and understand that the ultimate goal should be to preserve housing stock for this transition period. It is clear from the testimony that the amount of stabilized housing is deteriorating, as are the buildings in which they are located. I disagree with my learned tenant representatives who would read into the legislative finding the concept that ETPA controls are a right of the tenant forever and to write in affordability into the statute. Affordability does not appear. Not only is this at the expense of the property owner, but it's self-defeating, as you can see by the decline of the number of ETPA units over the last 5 years. If you want the number to go down to 0, keep penalizing the ETPA property owners, and you'll have less affordable housing and you must at least provide people with an incentive to purchase, rehabilitate, and construct affordable housing. And shocking as it may appear, even make a profit. Otherwise, why not just invest in bonds and secure 4 to 5% without risk? Moreover, since HSTPA, the Housing Stability Tenant Protection Act, the ability of property owners to subsidize the low rent guidelines of major capital improvements has decreased, and the vacancy increases have also disappeared. Even the individual apartment increases are minimal. So, as you have heard, among other things, major capital improvement applications have gone down from the 50 to 60 a year in Westchester to, I believe, 5 in 2025. Property conditions are declining because property owners can't afford major improvements and are adopting band-aid approaches, and they need your increases to do even that. 2% does not cut it. The fact is that our board shall, and emphasize the word shall, consider, are set forth in the statute. And I emphasize the word shall since in legal terms, as DHCS counsel can advise you, the word is a mandate, a requirement, not an option. The board must consider the following. 1, the economic condition of the residential real estate industry in the affected area, including such factors as the prevailing and projected 1, real estate taxes and sewer and water rates, 2, gross operating maintenance costs, including insurance rates, government fees, cost of fuel, and labor costs, 3, cost and availability of financing, including effective rates of interest, 4, overall supply of housing accommodations, and overall vacancy rate. And two, relevant data from the current and projected cost of living indices from the affected area. And three, such other data may be made available to it. This is in the law, and as you see in an addendum, I put the cost of living inflation chart issued by the government and set forth by the Times. As to the last section, as such other data, it refers to data, an objective term, not a speculative statement as to the ability to afford. Affordability is not a factor in the statute. Thus, while the statements by many people as to their respective fears of a rent increase certainly gain our sympathy, there was no empirical data as to affordability, nor is that an issue that we can legally consider. It is noteworthy that although we heard repeatedly that certain percentages of the population pay more than a third of their income as rent, we did not hear that the percentage was only in controlled housing, nor did we hear about those who use the ETPA subsidy in the form of rent controls to have fancy Vermont or other vacation homes. Affordability is not an issue for this board, and it is not a criterion set forth in the law. We have to follow the law. Moreover, I point out the testimony of a local 1199 representative, and there were increases set forth. And the same goes for property owners of rent-limited ETPA housing. Let's look at the numbers from table 3. Insurance is up 10.3%. Utilities are up 5.2%, double last year's increase. Fuel is up 7.5%, up over 9% from last year. What has gone down? MCIs, as we discussed. So ETPA buildings are deteriorating. Repairs are up 2.5%, an increase over last year. Even though more repairs are needed because you have less MCIs, and interest rates have almost doubled. As the interest rate, that presumes a property owner can even get a sufficient amount to refinance. Regarding depreciation, that's a real expense. For example, last year, Mr. Nelson spent $300,000 for a parking lot, but it could not be included in repairs, as only 127 could, in effect, be depreciated by the establishment of an expense. So that is not money that he can use for anything else, because it's a real amount of money that he has spent. The cost to income ratio is basically level, although the tenant representative claimed that the ratio means profit. That, of course, is nonsense. First of all, it does not include capital expenditures that are not included in the pay, or whatever capital is expended within the 27-year period, although the cash is laid out now. Further, the amortization of the property cost is not included. Finally, what about a fair return to the property owner, even when the tenant's own representatives have previously admitted that a fair return is called for? I point this out because it's important to recognize that as the surveys, they show 100% of the income in 1 year, but only 1/27th of whatever capital expenditures there is in that year. This makes it appear that there's greater income and less expense. If we as a board continue with the minuscule rent increases, as in the last couple of years, the amount of housing will decrease even more. Just look at the HCR charts. There are over 1,000 vacant units. That is a shocking number, and with the effects of ETPA, if we don't provide a reasonable increase, it would appear to continue on the same trajectory. Again, why invest in real estate if you can get a better return with no risk and less effort from treasury bills? You have to provide the property owner with a living increase. As we have repeatedly pointed out, ETPA properties generate insufficient income given the inflation rate, and many of these properties have subsidies from market rate apartments. Ken Wilson testified to data, not hypothetical, but real numbers. From 2010 to 2026, the CPI increased 42.5%. Yet the cumulative guideline increase for the 1 year is only 22.75%. For 1 year leases, were a shortfall of almost 20% and almost 40% less than the CPI, and 17.85% for 2 year leases, a shortfall of 53% less than the CPI for that period. As to the real estate taxes, last year Yonkers voted on a 5.45 increase, starting last July 1st. We heard from property owners who care about their properties and their tenants. The young lady who was a property owner of a small family-owned property gave us specific examples of increases in cost per apartment. Insurance, $23 a month. Taxes, $15 a month. Water, $7 a month. Heating and gas, $10 a month, 4 for 10. Since the average rent on her building is approximately $1,500 a month, the legislative suggestion of 2% translates to $30, a shortfall for this person and this landlord of $24 per apartment. As Alana Schiffelli has told us, these are hands-on owners who do the work on the building themselves. These and others like them can only stay out of bankruptcy by working hands-on. This is not unusual, but with no MCIs anymore and virtually no IAIs, without a reasonable increase in this board, it'll be virtually impossible for these property owners to stay in business. And the large property owners are in no better position. We have to remember that the cost of fuel is from 2025, and you know what has happened in 2026. 2% does not even begin to make up the cost of fuel. And we attacked also as part of our exhibit here, the difference between the CPI and the increase of 1 or 2 years. It is noteworthy that it's pointed out by Kim Foley, CEO and Executive Vice President of DRI, that HUD costs for fair market rent went up 5 to 6% this year. Even under good cause eviction, the rents would be between 5 and 10% increase. ACR advises that the cost of running these buildings went up 4.2%. 4.2% would only bring the rent up to where they were last year, well below the unfair market rent, well below the increase in the inflation. It is also noteworthy that the county recently raised property taxes 3.7%, and yet they say the landlord should only get 2%. At a minimum, the answer is to have an increase that keeps pace with inflation, which this year is over 4%. And again, we passed the article for that. One factor that is significant is that the job market in Westchester is very strong, and wage growth is 4.1%, which is higher than inflation. The issues before this board transcend the individual property owners and their tenants. I do not have to advise the public members of this board as to the significant burden and responsibility they have. The very existence of housing in Westchester ranks with you. Another 2% minimal increase will just exacerbate the housing crisis and then much further reducing the number of VPPAs. As I've stated previously, the housing situation cannot be put on the backs of the property owners, as a tendency to do. This is society's problem, but one that government should deal with, not restrict property owners' ability to earn a reasonable return. Adequate and affordable housing is not the burden of the property owner, but of the government. In the last 5 years, the yearly increase of Social Security has been approximately 4% per year. That's the Social Security. The increased cost of living is also imposed on the property owner. Virtually all of the segments of society are free of control and can raise the prices, but not the the ETPA multifamily property owners. We all have this burden, yet the landlord by statute cannot freely raise the rent to control apartments. If you want more housing, if you want better housing, if you want available housing, you have to provide an economic incentive for people to get or stay involved in multifamily property ownership. We must also remember that the limitations on landlords' income impacts detrimentally on the assessments of single-family property owners, who make up the difference in lost tax rate. I ask for public members to consider the impact on the public. When the values of multifamily properties go down, there are more certiorari's, and there's less taxes paid by the multifamily property owner, and they're made up by the single family dwellers. Going to the law, I would like to deal generally with the factors set forth, legal, non-emotional. I'd like to add that although we all understand that we want to prevent speculative and unjustified rent increases as the law states, we have an obligation to view the statutory goal in line with the factors which the legislature states that we shall and must consider. First, the law advises us to look at the economic condition of the residential real estate industry in the affected area, including such factors as prevailing and projected. Real estate taxes, sewer, and water rates. We know they've gone up. As to the economic condition of the residential real estate industry, I refer you to the undisputed fact that rent-regulated housing units in Westchester in under 15 years have decreased to about 40%. The number of rent-regulated housing units from 50,000 to 30,000. This is a major reduction in housing in our county, and we must think of the reasons, and we should not be responsible for further decline due to discouraging investment in affordable housing. ETPA's artificial limitation is a drag on the maintenance of existing housing. Keep rents artificially low, and you'll have less and less affordable housing for anyone. Moreover, the condition of the housing will deteriorate without reasonable rent adjustment to allow MCIs and the landlord to not only keep pace with the cost of living, but with increases in expenses. And to answer one who might comment that income has also increased, it no longer can increase due to vacancies and major capital improvements in high AR. I would like to also make a comment about the so-called core profit that we hear of the 40, 25, 17%, and some other such figure as to the chart. That profit is a misnomer. It doesn't take into account, among other things, it does not take into account, among other things, those payments of principal and amortization, which is the cost of, one more time. The property capital expenditures and NCI. If we want. Yeah, I have a point. If we want people to invest in improved affordable housing, we have to allow them to not only stay even, but to make a profit. Again, if you can get a guaranteed return in the bank, why invest in real property? Relative to real estate taxes, those rates have universally increased throughout the ETPA community. And while the ETPA property owners pay those expenses, the total assessment is subsidized by single-family homeowners. Again, this is because of certiorari laws. Number two, if we consider gross operating maintenance costs, including insurance, fuel, and labor, as to insurance costs have gone up astronomically in the past couple of years. There's also a hidden cost, that of the fact that the deductible is increasing, which is again a major cost to the landlord. This is a real cost, which is only partially reflected in the schedules which deal only with the policies that come up for renewal. The increases this year will be even greater than the last year. As for fuel, I don't think that we can anticipate the market that is so volatile that we have no idea of the future for it. You only have to go to the gas station to find out what fuel is costing them. As to labor, the union contract provides increases yearly. In order to ensure that the additional costs incurred by the landlords of fuel, utilities, labor, and real estate taxes, all of which are mandated and have no flexibility, do not come out of maintenance and repairs. An increase is necessary to equalize the increased expenses, which are significant in the last years. You've seen the figures. The guideline increases are much less than the increased expenses, much less than the cost of living over the years. To just keep pace, the landlords require at least 4.2% 1 year increase, which increase would only put them back even with where they would have been had this board given an increase commensurate with expense and cost of living rises for the last 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pender. Please stay there, in case anybody wants to do something or have questions.
Thank you.
Hearing none, I'm going to call the following speaker, Ms. Sylvia Taylor. She will be with the presentation for the tenants.
Did you leave these up?
I probably should have used them.
Yeah. Thank you.
This one missing, nothing over there.
Usually my job.
Hmm?
It's usually my job. Thanks.
Okay, now that we have all the materials left. Now that we have all the material, I'm gonna ask Ms. Taylor to start the presentation. We have 20 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, board members, and members of the public. Tonight, Tamara and I respectfully urge this board to adopt a balanced approach for 1 year and 2 year lease renewals by approving a 1% increase for 1 year leases and a 1.5% increase for 2 year leases. Our recommendation is not based on ideology. It is based on data, economic realities, and the lived experiences of thousands of Westchester County residents who are struggling to remain housed in one of the most expensive counties in the nation. It is also informed by concerns raised by property owners and their representatives. The question before this board is not whether housing costs and owner expenses have increased. We know they have. The question is whether rent stabilized tenants can absorb rent increases beyond the levels we are recommending tonight. The evidence overwhelmingly suggests they cannot. For many households, rent stabilization represents the last line of defense against displacement, homelessness, and economic insecurity. The typical rent stabilized tenant is not living comfortably. They are seniors living on Social Security, veterans, individuals with disabilities, child care workers, home health aides, food service workers, retail employees, delivery drivers, and countless others who keep our communities functioning every day. Many are living paycheck to paycheck. Others rely on fixed incomes that have not kept pace with the rising costs of living. Housing insecurity in Westchester County. As New York State Comptroller Thomas P. DiNapoli observed in the housing insecurity crisis, finding and keeping an adequate and affordable place to live has become all too difficult, stretching household budgets, forcing trade-offs with other essentials like food and health care, or leading to living in crowded, poorly maintained, or even hazardous conditions. The comptroller further reported that nearly 3 million New York households are cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing, and 1 in 5 households spend more than half of their income on housing costs. These conditions are especially severe in the Mid-Hudson region, including Westchester County. Housing insecurity is not a future threat. It is a present-day reality. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, reference to community survey, approximately 30% of Westchester County households are renters, and a substantial share of their rental households are cost burdened. In Yonkers, where the largest concentration of rent-stabilized housing exists, more than half of renter households are cost burdened. Similar challenges exist in Mount Vernon and other communities throughout the county. These statistics represent real people, residents who skip meals to pay rent, individuals who delay medical care because housing costs come first, workers holding multiple jobs while struggling to afford basic necessities, families who have done everything society has asked of them and still find themselves falling behind. The worsening affordability crisis. The Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress Out of Reach 2025 report confirms that housing costs continue to outpace wage growth throughout the region. The report found that rental costs have continued to rise while wages have failed to keep pace, creating a widening affordability gap for working households. Even households with multiple wage earners increasingly struggle to afford market rate housing while remaining within accepted affordability standards. As the Pattern for Progress concluded, our housing crisis is exacerbating a human crisis. Westchester's housing shortage only intensifies these challenges. Vacancy rates remain extremely low, Affordable housing inventory remains inadequate, and waiting lists for affordable units remain long. For many families, there is simply nowhere else to go. In this environment, rent increases above the levels we are recommending tonight would further erode affordability and increase housing instability for thousands of residents. The impact on older adults and vulnerable households. We also asked the board to consider the growing challenges facing older adults and vulnerable households. Many seniors rely heavily on Social Security benefits that have not kept pace with Westchester County's rising housing and living costs. Likewise, individuals living with disabilities often face fixed incomes and limited financial flexibility. For these households, even modest rent increases can have significant consequences. A rent increase is not simply a budget adjustment. It can be the difference between stability and displacement, between remaining housed and facing the prospect of losing a long-term home. The human cost of rent increases. Throughout this process, the board has heard testimony from tenants, housing advocates, legal service providers, nonprofit organizations, and community leaders. The message has been remarkably consistent. Food insecurity remains elevated. Demand for emergency assistance continues to grow. Families continue to struggle with the cumulative effects of inflation in housing, food, utilities, transportation, childcare, and healthcare. When housing costs rise faster than household incomes, families are forced to make impossible choices. They cut back on food. They postpone medical care. They reduce childcare expenses. They delay transportation and vehicle repairs. Eventually, many fall behind. When enough households fall behind, the resulting costs are shifted to shelters, schools, nonprofit organizations, healthcare systems, and local governments. I witness this reality every day as the executive director of Hope Community Services in Rochelle. Housing affordability and food insecurity are directly connected. When rent consumes a growing share of a family's income, there is less money available for groceries, healthcare, transportation, and other necessities. During the past 9 months alone, Hope's food pantry served 31,229 individuals, including 9,198 children. Our kosher pantry served 2,709 individuals, including 709 children. Our community kitchen provided meals to 37,609 individuals, including 204 children. Requests for housing assistance, SNAP enrollment support, health insurance navigation, and other self-sufficiency services have continued to increase. These numbers tell an important story. Families are not seeking assistance because they are irresponsible or unwilling to work. Many of our clients are employed, raising families, and doing everything they can to remain self-sufficient. They are struggling because housing costs, food costs, transportation expenses, and healthcare expenses continue to outpace household incomes. Testimony from the Hudson Valley Justice. Additional testimony presented to this board reinforces these concerns. A oral and written testimony submitted on behalf of the Hudson Valley Justice Center, Alvira Romero reported that during the first half of 2026 alone, the organization assisted at least 100 Westchester families living in ETPA regulated housing who were facing eviction due to rent arrears. The organization stated Many families are just one car breakdown, one unexpected medical bill, or one missed paycheck away from being at risk of becoming homeless. These are not isolated cases. They are working families, many employed full-time, who remain one emergency away from losing their housing. The Justice Center also described assisting a long-term Mount Vernon resident who had lived in the same apartment for more than 20 years, raised a family there, and built her life in that community, yet no longer can afford her rent. This is not housing stability. That is displacement. The Justice Center further noted that Yonkers and Mount Vernon contain approximately 1,500 ETPA regulated buildings, underscoring the scale of potential displacement if affordability is not preserved. What our elected leaders are saying. The concerns expressed by tenants and service providers have also been echoed by elected officials. In June 5th, 2026 letter to the board, members of the Westchester County Board of Legislators stated that housing affordability remains one of the most pressing concerns facing renters throughout the county. The legislators cited findings from a Regional Plan Association analysis showing Westchester's rental vacancy rate is approximately 1.9%. Nearly one half of renters are prosperous. The county's population is at its highest reported level, increasing demand for limited housing. Rents increased approximately 46% from 2015 to 2025. Their message was direct. Families struggling to make ends meet for not anymore. The county has also recognized the importance of preserving affordable housing by establishing a $10 million affordable home preservation and rehabilitation initiative in its 2026 budget to assist property owners with capital improvements and repairs. This reflects an important principle. Preserving affordability should not rest solely on the shoulders of tenants, but the data tells us about more finances. We also recognize that the board must consider the financial health of rent-stabilized properties. According to an analysis conducted by the Mamaroneck Coalition for Affordable Housing using New York State Homes and Community Renewal data, Westchester's rent-stabilized housing stock appears to remain financially stable overall. The coalition reported that net operating income remained approximately $60.2 million in both 24 and 25. Owners retained approximately 24.8% of revenue as cash flow before depreciation. Even after depreciation, owners retained approximately 17% cash flow. Operating costs represented approximately 64.3% of it. The reported cost to income ratio was approximately 83% in 25, among the lowest levels reported since 87. As the coalition concluded, costs take a smaller share of income today than at almost any point in 4 decades. The analysis also reported that average legally regulated rents increased approximately 2.2% between 24 and 25 without direct board action. Approximately 83% of vacancy turnover resulted in rent increases of less than 5%. These findings are important because they directly address the board's obligation to balance tenant affordability with owner financial viability. While certain expense categories have increased, the overall data suggests that rent-stabilized properties continue to generate positive operating margins. The limited increases we are recommending tonight would help preserve affordability for more than 29,000 rent-stable households while continuing to provide property owners with a fair opportunity to maintain financially viable operations. balance on its fees. We recognize that property owners face legitimate financial pressures. Insurance costs have increased. Utility costs have increased. Maintenance and repair costs have increased. These concerns are real and deserve consideration. However, the purpose of rent stabilization is not to maximize profits. It is to provide property owners with a fair return while preserving affordable housing for residents who depend upon it. The evidence before this board demonstrates that tenants and property owners are facing very different circumstances. Owners are experiencing financial pressure. Many tenants are experiencing financial crisis. The recommendations before you tonight acknowledge both realities. They provide a reasonable adjustment for owners while helping to protect housing stability for thousands of Westchester residents. The conclusion. Every year, this board is asked to balance two important responsibilities: maintaining affordable housing for tenants and ensuring financial stability for property owners. This year, the evidence points clearly in one direction. Rent stabilized tenants across Westchester are facing unprecedented affordability challenges. Housing costs continue to outpace rent. Food insecurity remains high. Emergency assistance requests continue to grow. Service providers, legal advocates, and elected officials have all testified to the growing strain on working families, seniors, veterans, and individuals living on fixed incomes. At the same time, available financial data indicate that rent stabilized properties remain financially viable and continue to generate positive operating margins. The recommendation before you tonight recognize both reality. We are not asking for a rent freeze. We are asking for a balanced adjustment that reflects current economic conditions while helping preserve housing stability for more than 29,000 rent stabilized households across Westchester County. Therefore, we respectfully urge the board to adopt 1% increase for 1 year lease renewals, 1.5% increase for 2 year lease renewals. These adjustments acknowledge owner costs while providing meaningful relief to tenants who have reached the limits of what they can afford. Housing stability should not be reserved for those with the highest incomes. It should remain attainable for the workers, seniors, veterans, families, and being able to make Westchester County the community we all value. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and for your service to the residents of Westchester County.
Any questions for me?
Did you actually have a question? So one of the compelling numbers that we have.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, it's okay.
No,
I'll go after.
She pointed you out.
Oh, okay. I had a quick question about the $10 million affordable housing preservation and rehabilitation initiative. Is that just going to affordable housing, or is it specifically any accounted for TPA building?
It's for the homeowners who are in need. It's for homeowners. It's not for tenants.
So, okay, so it's just for
It's for homeowners.
to buy new homes?
I don't know if it's to buy new homes. We'd have to look into that, but it's for property owners, with capital improvements, who need capital improvements and repairs. Right.
Isn't good.
This, please call me Sylvia. One of the most compelling, pieces of data that you provided was the number of people facing, food insecurity in your food pantry. I know you don't have the numbers on you, but, can we get cumulative numbers, what those numbers are in all of Westchester County, because these are very high numbers. We have a food pantry and soup kitchen I don't know if I can find them for all food pantries and soup kitchens, because some are in churches, some are in other nonprofits, but I can absolutely try. And I can see what Feeding Westchester gives to all again, only those that I know of in Westchester County. So I can follow up and see if Feeding Westchester has a number, because they are the food bank that also give food to us. We also have to purchase food from Feeding Westchester, so it's all not free, and the same with the others as well, but I could see what numbers they have.
And just to be clear, these are numbers just for
The whole community
in
services
Rochelle.
since September,
There's one city.
since September, and the numbers continue to grow.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Sylvia. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So that concludes the business of this meeting. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Everybody agree? Thank you.